Coming up, Google gets serious about mapping your body, Barbie gets sued, and you can pay a professional to manage your breakup online.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, December 8th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Right now, get free expedited FedEx shipping in time for the holidays when you go to ring.com/TNT. This episode is also brought to you by Braintree. Looking to set up payments for your business? Braintree gives your app or website a payment solution that accepts just about every payment method with one simple integration. Plus, Braintree will give you the first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. To learn more, visit braintreepayments.com/TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. I am Megan Morrone, and I am filling in for Mike Elgin. Our co-anchor today is the Register reporter, Iain Thomson.
Hi, Megan. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing today?
Oh, pretty good. A lot of interesting stuff out there.
It is, yeah. Well, we just got news, the late-breaking story that Pixel C is officially launching today. We'd heard about it before, but we got pricing. It's $499 and then $150 for an additional keyboard attachment. Now, you got a little bit of a chance to play with the Pixel C. What do you know about it?
Well, as I say, we've got a brief hands-on at the launch. The keyboard is interesting. In order to fit the form factor, they've had to switch it. They've had to sort of make the keys sort of slightly different order. On the brief go we had on it, that's actually made it a very useful sort of mini laptop, if you like. With regards to the design itself, very similar to anyone who's got the Chromebook Pixel will recognize the design, but they have sort of altered it slightly. All in all, it's a very tempting package. They've solved the problem of a tablet and a keyboard with these magnetic locks in position, but it's also quite an expensive one. You're looking at about $650 for this.
Well, yeah, and, we heard those rumors that there were going to be no more Chromebooks. There were going to just be Android tablets, and, typical Google, it's very confusing. This is still a Chromebook, not an Android tablet, right?
Yes, I mean, it's got feet in both camp, and we now know that they're going to sort of merge Chrome OS and Android in the future, and how that's going to work on this is going to be very interesting to see. I mean, it's a laptop in the case that it does 80% of the things that we want laptops to do. You can write on it, you can go online on it, you can create stuff on it. But in terms of whether it's an Android or a Chrome OS, it does have its feet in both camps to an extent, and certainly will do more in the future.
Well, I'm a big fan of the iPad Pro, which also has sort of feats in both camps of, I've almost been able to replace my MacBook with it, but there's still some. I definitely have replaced taking my MacBook on vacation. I'm willing to admit that, but there's still some things that are missing in the iPad Pro. But it is an interesting market, the hybrid.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing those awful sort of adverts for the PC at the same time as well. I mean, basically, everyone's trying to get into smaller and smaller form factors, detachable tablets and screens. I think this is going to be the next best, the next big thing. This is what the analysts are certainly saying anyway. So it's an interesting step in there. I mean, Google's never really been a mass market seller. It's really going for sort of the higher end people who want the pure experience, as it were. And this fits very nicely into that.
Well, moving on, almost a year ago, you and I talked about the announcement of the forthcoming Hello Barbie, that familiar toy Barbie that's been around since 1959. She now has a twist. She's connected to the internet. She can listen and learn from your child's voice, and it also talks back. In February, you asked, what could possibly go wrong? Iain, do you get tired of predicting the future?
Well, if that was the case, I'd be living in a much lovelier house than I am now. No, I mean, this was always going to be a tricky one, because when you give sort of smartish toys to children, then immediately privacy concerns are going to be to the fore. And, at first it did seem as though they got this right, but now that people have been looking at the security of the hardware and of the mobile app behind it, and they're finding some really big holes. Now, we've been talking to Toy Talk, the company that's been doing the IT behind this, and they're actually sort of doing their best, it seems, but they did lag behind the times. But it's I don't know why Mattel thought this was a good idea. I really don't. I mean, I can kind of see, yes, let's make things smarter, but if you're going to do that, you need to make it absolutely perfect. And I just don't think they didn't think this one through. I mean, it's tricky enough giving toys to your kids at the best of times, and something like this, they maybe should have waited for next holiday season.
Well, I mean, so there's also the question of, you telling your own secret thoughts to your Barbie and then having just your parents be able to listen to those. It seems like even if we're not even talking about being snooped on by, some stranger somewhere, just the fact that should be between a child and her toy, I think.
Oh, I agree totally. I mean, it's an important part of any childhood, I think, to actually sort of have time and imaginative time without being watched the whole time. Plus, I think it's a bit of a risk for the parents. Do they really want to know what their child is asking Barbie? Why Mummy cries to Jesus every time the mailman comes around and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I'm being slightly facetious, but even so, there are some things that parents really shouldn't know. And there are some things that children shouldn't have to tell them. And I think that was a very worrying side of this toy.
Yes. So tell us how Barbie can be hacked, if anyone's interested in hacking right now, or could be, because I think maybe they're fixing it, right?
Yeah. I mean, unless you're actually willing to take the toy apart and install your own firmware on there, then they've got most of it pretty much patched up now. I mean, that was one of the initial things, was that you found that the actual firmware involved was very basic stuff, and there are a number of sort of fairly simple flaws to exploit there. What they found with the mobile app was that you could do man-in-the-middle attacks because the Barbie mobile app just looked for any server with Barbie any web access point with Barbie in the name. So it was very easy to do a man-in-the-middle attack there. That's been fixed. The encryption on the password's been fixed. So honestly, there aren't going to be that many people who are going to hack into children's toys. But at the same time, parents are naturally protective and they just want to make sure this thing is locked down. So it's pretty much fixed at the moment unless you've got somebody actually getting around into the guts of the doll itself.
Well, I don't know about you, but I took apart all of my Barbies. My kids took apart all their Barbies. I think, one way to look at this is that it could be a good learning tool for a kid to take apart and see how technology works, right?
Oh, indeed. I mean, as a kid, I had the Bionic Man toy, which had a laughably a rubberized skin forearm, which you could pull up and take circuit boards out of, and all those sort of things. I mean, anything that encourages kids to tinker with electronics is a good thing. Yes, actually, unreservedly. I mean, go to things like the Hardware Hacking Village at the DEF CON security conference, and you'll find loads of kids in there with soldering irons and screwdrivers, just going at electronic circuit boards and having a really good time and creating some really useful stuff.
So there's already, where there is smoke, there are there are class action lawsuits, of course. So the first one has already been filed.
Yeah, I got news yesterday that the down in Los Angeles, I think it is, the first class action lawsuit has been filed. I'm not an expert on American lawsuits, but I have to say, if I was going to try and start a lawsuit based on my child used this for 2 days and is therefore has their privacy irreparably damaged, I don't know enough about the judicial system, but if I was the judge, I'd laugh that one out of court. I mean, you can't really claim that your precious little snowflake has been damaged by 2 days' use of a slightly insecure doll.
Yeah, well, they are fixing the holes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
But whether or not, we recommend the toy is another story. Yesterday, Google announced Verily. That's a rebrand of their life sciences division, turning it into a real company designed to map the human body to help prevent and cure disease. Verily will be composed of doctors, engineers, chemists, technologists, and they'll be working on promoting good health and preventing disease, such as cardiovascular disease and cancer. What are your thoughts on life sciences?
Well, it's another letter to the alphabet soup, certainly. I mean, basically, this goes with Google's strategy of sort of splitting little chunks of itself off and putting them as separate companies so they can run independently. It's probably a good idea from a corporate structure. I hope in terms of the amount of benefits it has, then it actually reflects in results. We've seen the same thing with the robotics division as well, although that's had some leadership problems. So, I mean, this is just Google sort of paring itself down, getting the core search business nice and lean, I think.
So they'll make smart contact lenses with embedded glucose sensors to track diabetes, wearables. It all sounds good, but you are pretty much our resident skeptic. So when the CEO of Verily, Andy Conrad, says only through the truth are we going to defeat Mother Nature, are you a little worried about that kind of language from Google?
It's hyperbole, but that's kind of what he's there for. To really, I mean, the real work's being done by the lab technicians and the hardware geniuses and that sort of thing. I mean, the technology to make these things is there. The technology to actually get them into human eyes is a fair way off. I mean, it's all well and good. So looking at some of these, it's almost there. You're getting down to sort of very light levels of electronic covering and instrumentation that you can put onto a contact lens. But it's the process of actually getting it to somebody's eye legally and in a way that you can collect revenue from it. It's coming. It is coming, but I don't think it's coming quite as quickly as they say.
So another Apple news, Apple announced a product that wasn't completely rumored into existence. That is rare. Usually we hear about things and hear about them and hear every part of the rumor before. But this little battery, it's a smart battery case. It's $99. It's designed for the iPhone 6 and the 6S, but not for the Plus. I was very excited when I saw this morning. I talked to Leo about it. He was like, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. There are other cases out there. Now the early reviews from people who have had it say that it's kind of ugly. We're showing a video of it right now. It has this big bump on the back, which is where the battery is. But I mean, I've seen and used a lot of battery cases for iPhones, and they're all kind of ugly. What do you think?
We were actually discussing this in the office just before coming on air, and the considered opinion from my colleagues is that it is so ugly. It's going to be very difficult to sell, particularly with Apple users who tend to go on style as well. They like their nice, slim, sexy phones, and that's a big part of the sales strategy. I mean, look, battery packs are never going to be pretty because you've got to pack a bunch of extra stuff in there. Some of us would like a thicker phone if it meant that we didn't have to carry around a charger with us the whole time, but it doesn't look like it comes from Apple, you know? I mean, it doesn't look like Johnny Ive even looked at this thing before it went out, which is kind of a worrying sign.
Well, it does bring up the discussion of why not just make the phone thicker? Like, are we, married to this idea of the thin, slim phone and that runs out of battery before the end of the day, which is always an interesting discussion. Do you think that is that true, that just a thicker phone means it would last longer?
There's certainly ways that you could build a bigger battery in there. I mean, you say we've all got used to the idea that we barely get a day's use out of our smartphone. I still hanker for the day, the days of the old dumb phones. I had a Nokia that would last a week between charges, and that's what I'd like to get back to. But battery technology just isn't there yet. At the end of the day, you've got to have a certain physical weight of a battery on there if you want extra time, and there are ways of doing that. But when it comes to this Apple case, it's a pretty ugly way of doing it.
Well, you'll say it's hard to sell, but they sold it to me this morning. I had my own credit card out. I bought one. I have the 6 Plus, and it doesn't fit the 6 Plus, but the 6 Plus has amazing battery life, and it's big. And I don't think I could ever go back to the smaller screen. But my daughter has a 6, and I think that she really, I was looking for a Christmas gift for her anyway. So I think this fits the bill because she does spend a lot of time. Where's the charger? Where's the charger? Because she's just constantly streaming video on her phone, and it runs out all the time. So they sold it to me.
That is actually a very good disciplinary measure. If the kids are giving you any problems, take away the recharging cables. It means they've got maybe 3 or 4 hours battery life if they nurse it before they have to come begging back.
I have definitely heard that as a parenting strategy. Yeah, just don't take away the device, take away the charger, and just watch the fear in their eyes. I don't know. That's not the kind of discipline I practice at home. But in other Apple news, 9 to 5 Mac reports on a rumor. Sources say Apple has an event planned in March to unveil the second generation Apple Watch. It will have rumored to have wireless capabilities, sleep tracking, a new camera. I know you're not an Apple guy. Has the Apple Watch interested you at all, Iain?
It's interested me on one level. I mean, basically, it's the first smartwatch which got decent sales. Now, and part of that is down to Apple's brand loyalty, and part of it is down to utility and design, because it was and still is really probably the best looking smartwatch out there. At the same time, I don't think it's made the case for smartwatches at all. Certainly outside of hardcore Apple users, there isn't really much smartwatch use and hardcore Android users. So the Watch 2 could go either way. On one level, you're saying, right, this is the next generation watch. But if it's significantly better than the first watch, then first watch users might feel a little bit shortchanged, if you like, particularly if you bought the solid gold one, in which case you're an idiot anyway.
Right. I think that was the big thing before people were buying it. It's like, well, I'm just going to have to buy a new one because Watch 2 is going to come out next year. So, if you were paying attention, you knew that this was going to happen. So this episode is brought to you by the Ring Video Doorbell. The Ring Video Doorbell lets you see and speak to anyone at your door from anywhere using your own smartphone. But it is more than just stopping would-be burglars in their tracks. This time of year, you're probably getting packages sent to the house for the holidays. With Ring, you can talk to delivery people and you can keep an eye on your package. If someone tries to mess with it, you'll get an instant alert and HD video of the whole thing. It's like having a neighbor keep an eye on your home 24/7 without that judgment from the judgy neighbors. Installing Ring takes minutes and it works with either your current wiring or built-in rechargeable battery. This year, give the gift of peace and mind and convenience with the Video Doorbell. Time Magazine named one of their top 10 gadgets. Go to ring.com/TNT for free expedited FedEx shipping. That's ring.com/TNT. With Ring, you are always home. Recently, we have seen a slew of tech tools to help you manage the end of a relationship. Google Photos will remove photos of your ex so you no longer have to see them or any pictures you've taken with them in it. Facebook will let you see fewer or none of your ex's status updates without having to rudely unfollow them. I guess it was just a matter of time before someone made a business out of helping rid someone else from their digital lives completely. Selena Larson from the Daily Dot talked to Caroline Cinders. She is one such expert. Welcome, Selena.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Megan.
So when I first read your headline, I thought, well, that figures. But this social media breakup coordinator, it's not exactly what it seems to be. Is it a real thing or is it an art project?
It's actually both. So it started out a bit like an art project where she was placed in baby castles, which is a collective in New York City. But she's also offering her services for anyone who would be interested in them for real. So she actually hosted office hours and had everyone fill out a quiz that was kind of like, what's your social media use now? Who are the people that you're trying to avoid? And how do you want to change how you use social media? So I actually took the quiz and wanted to find out a little bit more about this. I didn't have an ex in particular that I wanted to get rid of, but I definitely wanted to try it out. And I think for people who are actually really struggling with ridding people from their lives, whether that be a coworker or an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend or just an ex-friend or family member, she can actually really help.
So the breakup shop that you talk about is a service that will break up for you, not just rid them of your digital life, but really do the breaking up. That's real, right?
Yes, so that's actually real. It's a real thing that exists. And they will call the person that you're trying to break up with and be like, oh, hey, so-and-so said that they don't want to be with you anymore, and kind of talk you through it. And I think it's a little bit, I'm not clear exactly on whether it's better or worse than just ghosting someone and not talking to them and just avoiding the whole situation altogether. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. And actually, Carolyn talked a little bit about this in our interview, in that she said that services like this, it's kind of like the Uber, but for breaking up with someone. There are kind of all of these on-demand services that pretty much can manage every aspect of our lives, whether that's breaking up with someone, whether that's doing your laundry, food delivery. There are a ton of options like this. And her initial project kind of sought to satirize this idea, in that you can have someone clean up your social media for you so you wouldn't have to be bothered with it. But what ended up happening is that she did a ton of research into harassment and managing different social relationships, and she talked with different therapists and lawyers and people who might be involved in this, and found that there are reasons why people might not want to manage it themselves. And it might sound kind of like the silly convenience that oh, I just don't want to look at my pictures of my ex-boyfriend, can you do it for me? But it could also come down to, I don't want to have to look at the messages that I'm getting from my harasser, and can you help me deal with that?
So I've got to say that the idea of a social media breakup coordinator seems like a quite bizarre job title. I mean, what is it exactly?
So she has a ton of different options for you. What initially happens is you take a quiz, and she pre-programs in all of these answers. So based on the feedback that you give the quiz, she'll provide you with a list of solutions, whether that's delete your Facebook account, unfriend somebody, remove them from your contacts, set up Twitter lists so you can block certain people. Basically a bunch of solutions to help you manage your privacy and information a little bit better online that you might either not be aware of or don't necessarily have the emotional capacity to handle yourself. So she provides these solutions basically on these prescriptions that she was handing out to all of her clients that came to get a consult. And if somebody doesn't want to necessarily handle this themselves, she offers her own services to do so. For instance, she gave me an example of someone wanting to rid their ex of basically the information from all of their social media services and including their contact lists. But what she does is she keeps that information because you never know if you might want it back. So all of these services that she provides are actually completely reversible if somebody decides that, oh, wait, I actually do want that person back in my life. Can I get these photos back that we deleted from my Facebook? Or can I get that phone number or email that I wanted to delete from my address book? So it's kind of like a digital cleansing service where she provides solutions to your problems. Like if you're trying to avoid somebody or want to block them or basically clean up your Twitter profile a little bit. She says, this is how you can do it. Or if you'd rather, I can do it for you.
It reminds me of that movie, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I don't know if you saw that, but yeah, that doesn't make a good case for trying to use technology to get rid of your memories. But so you went and you filled out the form and you said that, you don't have an ex that you're trying to rid your life of, but your goal was to make your social media life less personal, which is interesting. I follow you on Twitter. I think you do a great job of sharing some just, a reasonable amount of personal information that is helpful to other people. It's not, I don't see you as one of those people that's always promoting herself, but when you have something that you think could be of use to others, I think that you do a good job of that. Did she have any tips for you that you've already been using?
So one of the things that she suggested, which was kind of interesting, was deleting Facebook and Twitter apps from my phone. As a tech reporter, it's a little bit hard for me to be able to do that because if there's an update or anything, I have to constantly be using the app, to just because it's part of my job. But in that way, it sort of takes away the risk of potentially drunk tweeting or, like posting a Facebook status update or a picture to Instagram or Twitter of me after hours that, perhaps my Twitter followers shouldn't necessarily be seeing if I'm trying to be a little bit more professional. She also said that perhaps like changing my bio to reflect that I'm like a reporter and these are the topics that I cover and things like that were kind of some of her suggestions. So I took I was a little bit curious as to what her thoughts were. And obviously, after we spoke, I went back and took a look at my feeds and considered actually deleting Facebook and Twitter. But what I ended up doing was just disabling notifications. So I get much less distracted on mobile, but I can still use the apps.
Interesting. Now, not that I'm actually planning to use this service myself, but if I were, I gather there's a Chrome extension for it.
So there's not a Chrome extension for this particular service. She does actually offer Chrome extensions as a solution. For instance, one of the things that I said was, it was very easy to get distracted on Facebook and Twitter, especially as a media person who's constantly trying to read news. But there is a little Chrome extension that called Forest that plants a little seedling on your browser. And as you use social media or whatever these blacklist sites are, it dies. Or if you avoid them, it grows into this forest. And it's supposed to really benefit productivity.
I installed Forest this morning. I did very well in my productivity, but then I went to Facebook one time and my tree died.
The struggle is real, Megan.
It is. Well, Selena Larson, thank you so much. As always, Selena is a staff writer at the Daily Dot. She covers all the interesting tech topics as they relate to our lives, and she is at Selena Larson on Twitter. I highly suggest you follow her, especially if you need more positivity in your life. Thank you so much, Selena.
Thanks so much, Megan. I appreciate it as always.
Here, Maps is officially free of Nokia and is now at the behest of Audi AG, BMW Group, and Daimler AG. Back in August, the car makers bought Here for $3 billion. And now the mapping technology will be used for autonomous vehicles. Iain, what do you think about this story?
Well, I mean, it had to come. I mean, it's the car makers are finally waking up to the fact that Google is is eating their breakfast, and they do seem to be coming back fairly quickly. I mean, mapping is one of those things. Do you remember when Google Maps started out? Everyone was like, "What the hell are they doing? They're a search company, for goodness sake!" But this kind of mapping stuff is very, very handy indeed, and yeah, it's nice that we can get it free, but the car manufacturers know which side their bread is buttered on.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we think about. Oh, like, I love Apple Maps. I love Google Maps. But all of this stuff is the end game is really to power the autonomous vehicles of the future, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is coming, and there's no real way that it could be stopped now, even if it should be. Autonomous vehicles will be here. Okay, I'm a slight conservative about this, but even I'll say that the lawmakers will have made their minds up within 5 years, and we'll start seeing very expensive models on the roads. We're already seeing autonomous trucks being tested out. The truck manufacturers are very big on this. So yeah, it's definitely coming, and it's about time they got in on the game, frankly.
So they're using real-time driver data to power they're collecting real-time driver data. Are there any privacy issues that you know of with that?
If they haven't actually thought out to anonymize this data by now, then they're in real trouble. I'm sure there'll be lots of stuff in the terms and conditions that can be put in there to protect them against lawsuits. I mean, ultimately, people volunteer this kind of information if you're a Waze user, for example. So I don't think people are going to feel that their privacy is being invaded that much. The difficulty comes if they are storing information and it gets stolen. That could be very damaging.
So we have some percentages and statistics. Recode says that 70% of all internet use is now streaming media and music. And the New York Times says digital ad spending will grow 17.2% this year to nearly $160 billion, is on track to overtake TV ad spending. I thought it was interesting that these two statistics together were streaming more. So I guess that means that really our ads are going to be on the internet, because I mean, a lot of, most of the streaming media that we have doesn't really have ads. I mean, Hulu does, but a lot of it really doesn't. So what do you think this means for us?
I think at the moment it doesn't, certainly. I have to say, I looked at that 70% of all internet traffic is streaming and felt quite nostalgic for the good old days when it was pornography. But no, I mean, in terms of the advertisers know where the eyeballs are. Or at least they're finally finding out where the eyeballs have been for some time, and they're piling into digital advertising. At the same time, we're consuming more and more media in this format, and it's really going to be, I think, to the point in the next 5 years or maybe 10, pushing it, where digital accounts for the vast majority of all ad spend, and everything else is going to be considered very, very niche.
Well, this episode is brought to you by an ad by Braintree, code for easy mobile payments. Maybe you're working on the next Uber, Airbnb, or GitHub, then why not use the same simple payment solution that helped them become what they are today? Braintree makes mobile payments fast and easy. Add it to your app with just a few lines of code, and you are instantly ready to accept Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, credit cards, even Bitcoin. And if some other way to pay comes along, Braintree will support that too. You can see fewer abandoned carts, more sales with Braintree's best-in-class mobile checkout experience. Braintree gives you a full-stack payment solution, support for all payment types your customers might want, single integration across all platforms with superior fraud protection, customer service, and fast payouts. To check it out for yourself, visit BraintreePayments.com/TNT. So after 5 long years, the Japanese Akatsuki, how did I do, Iain? Akatsuki?
That sounds better than my pronunciation, to be quite frank. It's a different language to me.
Let's say Akatsuki. The spacecraft is finally in orbit around Venus. You wrote about this on the Register. What took them so long? It's not like this is rocket science.
Well, actually, no. I mean, it's valve science of all things. There was a corroded valve, they think, on the oxidizer tank for the main engine fuel. And when the burn was being made to get it into Venus orbit, the valve didn't open up properly, and so they lost thrust, and the engine got leaner and leaner and hotter, and it ended up burning the actual engine nozzle off the main engine. So they lost their main engine and went sailing off around the sun again.
So did they think it was lost, or they had kept track of it this whole time?
Oh, no, they kept track of it, and they were in communication with it fairly soon afterwards and trying to find out what happened. It took a couple of years of going through the results and actually trying to replicate them here on Earth, but they think they got it worked out. So then they dumped the 150 kilogram, I think it was, of oxidizer straight out the vent. That gave them a little bit of extra thrust. And then it's got like 12 small attitude thrusters, which keep it pointing towards the correct position. And then it used long, slow burns of those to actually get it back into position. And then yesterday, 5 years to the day after the initial engine failure, they finally got it into orbit around Venus.
So do we know if there are any effects of being so close to the sun? Have any of the instruments been damaged at all?
Yeah, that is a bit of a worry. Basically, it went a tenth of an astronomical unit too close to the sun, which doesn't sound like much, but it's an enormous temperature difference when you're getting that close. So some of the instruments may be fried. Some of them are still working. We know that much for sure. And we'll have the final orbit on December 9th. They're going to make an announcement on there. It will be a workable orbit as far as we know. They will be able to get their atmospheric sensors to focus on the planet itself, but it'll be a very elliptical one. So they're going to get short bursts of data and then long bursts of just sailing off away from Venus before circling back round.
Well, if anyone out there listening or watching is interested in reading more about this, Iain has an excellent article at the Register that was posted yesterday. So finally tonight, I am hoping that maybe our days of junk mail are almost over, the paper kind. Maybe we can convert them to the digital kind. The U.S. Postal Service is now testing a notification system called Informed Delivery that will email you your mail. You can participate in the new program that will send images of the mail that's on its way to you. Is this something you would use, Iain?
We were discussing this in the office yesterday, and I have to say, when I first thought about it in these paranoid times, like, hang on, they're going to open my mail and scan it and send it to me? But no, I mean, if it's a logical thing for the U.S. Postal Service to do, in that they already have images of these mails for digital sorters anyway. Makes you kind of miss the old days of hand sorting, but I suspect it's a lot more accurate. I mean, I don't know whether it's really worth using. Junk mail these days, you either sort of tramp down on it completely or you just toss it straight in the bin. Nice environmental benefit. I mean, is it something you'd use, Megan?
I don't think so, because I do think at this point I am, like you said, I'm very comfortable just recycling my mail and trying to get off lists. But there's something about the digital clutter of my email that is much more suffocating to me, I think. I don't want any more.
It would be ironic if it went into the spam filter every time, but no, it's just no. I mean, it's. I know what you mean. We all get enough emails as it is. I mean, it's a public service, I guess. They're a public body. We'll see what the take-up's going to be, but I suspect not very high.
I mean, I could see specific uses if you were traveling, or if there was something that you really were expecting in the mail and you wanted to know if it was on its way. I could see that. It's only the cover of the outside, right? They're not opening it up.
Oh, no, they're not opening it up. I mean, basically, when the mail goes through the sorter, a digital image is taken anyway. And I think somebody had the bright idea of just taking these images and then farming them out to individual people if they request that, which is, no harm done at the end of the day. But unless, as you say, you're waiting for something which is both important and going to arrive in a clearly identified envelope, then, yeah, the use case is fairly limited.
Right now, I could see using it to see who's sending me their holiday card, so I could see whether to add them to my holiday card list. That would be a good use case.
Yeah, I know. It's the holiday card. I just don't understand why we're still doing this. We have electronic communication which can span the world in seconds, and yet we're cutting down trees, mashing them up, drawing pretty pictures on the outside, writing in them, putting a stamp on them, and sending them by aircraft or by boat across seas. It just seems so archaic.
Well, it's a way to, I guess, show people your perfect family in the perfect family arms around each other position, and how perfect your life is, maybe?
Oh, maybe. I mean, do you get round robin letters over here in the UK?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, right. Okay. It must be. Thank goodness it's just a UK tradition. No, it's when people who you send Christmas cards to send you a little newsletter of all the things their family has done each year. And, Jocasta won her second day's horse riding competition, and little Odin scored very well in his spelling bee test, that sort of thing. It's one of the more unpleasant parts of getting Christmas cards because it's usually terribly self-serving.
We don't call them I don't call them round robin letters, just holiday letters. And yeah, they need to be stopped.
I could live with that. If
you want to tell us what you think about junk mail or spam or holiday letters or round robin letters, you can send email to TNT at twit.tv. Our TNT fan of the day is Sergio Duran from Zapopan, Jalisco, Mexico, who posted this picture listening to TNT using the Grover podcast app on Windows 10. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it. Thank you so much for co-hosting today, Iain. We talked about your space story and your Hello Barbie story. What else are you working on that you can talk about?
Oh, there's some interesting stuff coming up. We've got I've just been trying a month living with the Google Nexus 5X. And some trenchant points on that. So there's stuff coming up. I mean, we're in the pre-Christmas sort of run-up now. So I think there's going to be a lot more silly stories out there than there have been in the last 11 months.
Exactly. I think we proved that a little bit today together. You can read more of Iain's writings on Twitter or at the Register. On Twitter, he is at Iain Thomson. Thank you again, Iain, and we will see you next week.
Always a pleasure, Megan. See you next week.
And you can subscribe to Tech News Today on Spotify, Deezer, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Feedly, Yahoo, TuneIn, RSS. So many options. Choose your favorite way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. You can also watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1700 UTC at twit.tv/live. And if you are ever in the San Francisco Bay Area, come on in and watch us as part of our studio audience. Send email to tickets@twit.tv. You can follow us on Twitter, Tech News Today TV. Also, don't miss our other news show, Tech News Tonight at 4 p.m. Pacific every weekday. And that is it for the Tech News Today. This show was produced by Jason Cleanthes and edited by Anthony Nielsen. My name is Megan Morrone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.